Shadow Coast here, and welcome back to the Underhive. In this episode, we are going to be talking all things Brawler, how to spec them, and make them into absolute beasts on the battlefield. Before we jump in, I am actively trying to grow my channel, so if you're interested in supporting me, please consider subscribing or dropping me a thumbs up on any of my videos. I really appreciate the support. Now, let's jump in. I am using my Shadow Knights gang as a test because we have a bunch of credits. This gang is focused on range, so this is for outlining purposes only. To begin with, brawlers are close range quarter combat melee fighters. Their signature skill is Death from Above, where they can jump down, creating an area of effect blast that deals 46 to 63 damage to fighters in a 5-meter radius. This attack ignores all range evasion and cannot deal graze, so we're basically ensuring that we deliver at least 46 damage. All targets receive the mechanical debuff, and the fighter is stunned. Career perks, they do have arm guards on each arm, providing 45% protection against all damage types, which is nice. And they are vigilant, which reduces the cost of ambush by 5 AP, melee ambush. Bonus stats are melee prowess, willpower, and toughness, which should be relatively unsurprising. Now, we're going to choose a veteran ganger just so we can keep adding points to show you how we're going to spec them out, hypothetically. To begin with, let's look at traits. For traits, I personally recommend prioritizing strength because that will increase melee penetration as well as bypass melee stun resistance. Now, all of these traits are important, so we're going to focus on them when we're kitting out or building up our fighter in general. For our mental trait, I personally recommend willpower because this increases our stress resistance, increasing the chance of removing one offensive, defensive, or skill debuff on turn start, and it also increases our resistance to being stunned or staggered. Now the other trait, or excuse me, not trait, the other stat that we want to focus on is also alertness, because this not only increases our initiative, but our hit resistance, which increases the probability of receiving a grazing hit, which is basically partial damage. So in our case, we are going to prioritize willpower in general, although our secondary stat here is alertness. Finally, for our martial trait, I personally would recommend melee prowess. It makes sense, basically ensuring that we deliver full melee damage when we are attacking. So on this one, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to want to always spec melee prowess. The other attribute that we might consider would be accuracy. Now, I am demonstrating this as an Orlock gang. The Goliath and Escher brawlers, in my opinion, are more efficient given house perks, which you can look at later on. So we're going to go ahead and hire this fighter in, and now we're going to spec them out. When it comes to traits, in general, we are going to first prioritize strength as well as melee prowess. So we're just going to kit that out. We have plenty of experience here to begin with. After that, I highly recommend agility and willpower. Basically, we want to make sure that we can dodge incoming range and melee attacks, and we want to make sure that when we are attacked, especially from enemy either range or melee fighters, they're going to be applying debuffs on us. We want that opportunity to remove them so we can do more, and I meant to get that out. After that, I highly recommend alertness. We want to increase the probability of receiving that glancing hit, and we're also going to want to work on our initiative because our brawlers are absolute beasts. They will do massive damage. After that, it's up to you. I personally recommend going toughness. Now, as we go through this, I do recommend keeping an eye on toughness and adding a point as you go every now and then because you will be taking damage, and we want to make sure that we kit them out. And I should have recruited somebody higher level. So I'm actually going to just drop this down. I'm arbitrarily clicking these to give me enough experience for skills to show you how I would spec skills. Now, obviously, we're going to get to level 5 because we put so much in here already. So let's go to skills. Now, we are assuming this is not your leader. If this was your leader, you're going to have additional skills you're going to want to consider. As a non-leader, for the brawler skills in general, you're going to want to pick up, let's go active first, in my opinion, chain hit. Chain hit allows you to attack twice with an active melee weapon, or if you have two one-handed weapons, effectively 4 times, which is awesome. Now, each attack receives minus 20% hit precision. Um, However, if normal or critical offensive on self, we get this plus 15% melee crit hit chance. So if we basically are hitting them multiple times, this crit chance is awesome. So we're going to learn this. Now, hypothetically, you're going to want to upgrade this so the AP cost is minimized. So we're going to go ahead and do it because we can. And you're going to see here 40 AP for 4 hits, so 10 AP per hit. And we'll get into weapons and gear in a minute. The other item that I would recommend getting is both Warcry Destabilize. This increases the AP cost of all offensive skills until the end of battle with enemies in range. That is massively awesome. Now you would upgrade this to full, and basically we're debuffing the enemy, making it expensive for them to use their moves. This is especially important when we are facing off against enemy brawlers. We want to hit them with this to make sure that we limit the amount of damage they can do, because they only have so much AP. The other item that I highly recommend is Terrorize, which I love this move. It affects all enemies in range. It reduces your range precision and melee damage of the enemy target. So between these two, you hit them with Terrorize first, which is probably, in my opinion, more impactful because you're reducing damage, and then you hit them with Destabilize. Now we have to remember that enemies have the opportunity to remove debuffs at the beginning of a turn with some other moves we'll get into. But these are bread and butter brawler tactics or brawler active moves, and I highly recommend them. And I would upgrade them fully. Again, chain hit to me is the most important to output damage. Terrorize, then Destabilize comes in a little bit later. Other moves you want to look at, I would consider Preparation just to increase your initiative. So this is more situational, but I personally like this because it does last until end of battle. And effectively, as you are positioning your brawler, you can just get that buff to stress resistance and initiatives, which pays dividends in the long run throughout the battle. And that is because brawlers in general tend to have a slightly lower initiative. So that's a good way to increase it. Once you get your ganger skills, I personally like Delay. This basically is a situational move as you're trying to get to wherever you're going to go to increase your initiative as well as your AP and max AP. So if you can't quite get to where you want to be and you want to set yourself up for success on the following turn, delay is always good. Iron Will is a must. You need to get this. Now, it is limited to 1 use per battle, and I would fully upgrade this. Effectively, if your brawler wants to run in there, cause havoc to the enemy team, you pop this if your brawler is going to be targeted, or quite frankly, any of your units you know are in for a tough turn. You pop this. This hit resistance, stun resistance is great because effectively you're going to receive grazing hits or straight up dodge or avoid incoming damage. So you have to learn Iron Will. Between the other ones that we're looking at here, I personally would decide to go with either Power Strike or Delay. I would probably preferential Delay. Power Strike is nice because attack gains plus 100% damage, and you reduce the ability for them to evade, and then you're teeing it up with range evasion. Effectively, with Power Strike, if this is my Orlock game where I'm range heavy, so the majority of my team is going to be ranged, I would recommend getting Power Strike because if I'm trying to burn down an enemy, if I hit him with Power Strike, as long as I hit him, they get that reduced range evasion, teeing it up for the rest of my team to take out that unit. If you are not going a range heavy team, I'd probably recommend delay, get your initiative up, and then you can get out. Alright. So if you wanted to hit and run situational, um, the way I play my brawlers, once they're engaged, they're there to take out the enemy, so I'm probably not going to disengage. Now, there is an argument for charge. This gives you some distance, and uh, what's nice about this is it doesn't trigger stances, and it gives you critical hit chance, you bypass melee evasion, and hit precision. So it's not that bad of a move. If you fully upgrade it, it's actually efficient and it actually helps you manage your AP. So it's a move that's situational. Think about it, but it's not one of my top moves in general, but something to think about. All right, let's get into skills. So to begin with, I would recommend getting Vengeance. Plus 10% hit resistance, lasts until end of turn, and it goes up to 30%. In general, your brawlers are running in, they are susceptible to range attacks. You're basically reducing your damage with this move, so I recommend picking it up. Fury, I also like, requires performing a melee attack, activates after dealing graze or evaded. You increase your melee evasion and melee precision, and you want to fully upgrade this. This is your bread and butter move to ensure that you can output damage on enemies, so I'd highly recommend it. It lasts until the end of turn, but if you can, I would fully upgrade it. So on passives, Fury, Vengeance are critical to grab. In general, I would recommend getting Galvanized because you're going to get melee precision until the end of next turn after you use Warcry. So we have two Warcries in general. Unless we know we're going to take out the enemy, we're going to be hitting them with one or two, or if not both, of these Warcries, especially if we get into a group. So Galvanize is a pretty good move that I would recommend. And when we look at it, I would increase it because your melee precision, you're basically trying to max it out. I personally like Enrage, and this is awesome because it reduces the cost of strike, so it allows you to output more damage. So this one is one that you would want to fully upgrade as you upgrade toughness. And this is one of the reasons why you want to keep an eye on toughness when you're upgrading your stats, right? I gave you the priority, but don't forget that things are linked and your moves are important. So this is a pretty important move because it effectively allows you to output more damage. Now, the other items I would recommend focusing on is I personally like Daunting Presence because you're increasing the cost of disengage. So if you're fighting other Orlocks or anybody, you're making it more expensive for them to disengage. There are some other good moves out there if you want them, but to be honest, if you're going like bread and butter um, brawler, you really probably want to pick up most of these. And so Daunting Presence, I would highly recommend. We're gonna actually wipe this skill, and we're not actually saving any of this, so hopefully it doesn't cost us. So I'm just showing you a few other moves that you would consider. Melee Trained is a good one. It gives you melee penetration. I do like this one, and I'd recommend upgrading it, so something to consider. And for these, you're doing trade-offs, so it's up to you. I personally wouldn't pick any of them. Um, if I was to pick one, it would be Momentum from this tree. It is pretty good. Activates after attack deals critical offensive on self, melee critical chance. So you're stacking your crit. Killing Spree is nice. Well, it's nice in general. This is range, so we wouldn't want it. And yeah, so it's pretty much most of this stuff I would recommend picking. But if you're gonna pick other ones, it would be melee trained and or momentum. Okay, let's talk about gear. So first of all, we have this 45% across the board arm guard, which is pretty good on each side. So we're gonna want the highest tiered, I guess, chest piece you can get, as well as legs to reduce damage. For kitting out your implants, we're gonna try to reflect the stats we had. So I would recommend strength, melee prowess, willpower, alertness, toughness, and agility in general for that. When it comes to weapons, I highly recommend two one-handed weapons. So you could go brute cleaver, sword. You could do spudjacker if you want some stun. Just do two one-handed melee weapons. I would actually pick different ones. So if you do a brute cleaver, maybe you do a spudjacker. Pair it with a spudjacker. Um, or sword, brute cleaver. Um, to be honest, I would consider two chainsaw swords. I don't have them, but they will apply bleeding effects, which will help take out the enemy. So if you're not going to chain swords, I would have a mix of stun and your other weapon just to debuff the enemy. But that's personal preference. So I would recommend two chain swords, but you always want to pick higher tiered weapons. So for example, I would always pick my level 5 over a level 4 if I had a level 4, because I am going to output more damage. And you're going to see the stats here also change depending on the type. So make sure you have two one-handed weapons. It's really hard to justify having a two-handed weapon, and that's because you want shots to hit, and then you're gonna proc your passives, right? So if we look at this one, was it momentum? Does not stack. One of them stacks. Melee train does not stack. I thought. Okay. Well, none of them stack. So I misspoke. No, this one stacked. Vengeance stacks. Activates after normal or critical. So we're gonna stack our hit resistance up to suffering range attack. What the heck? Here we go. Enrage stacks. That's what I meant. So we can get the -2 AP. If we fully upgrade this, -15 AP, it could stack twice. -30 AP, we're going to just keep swinging for the fences. So you want two one-handed weapons. So this is my Brawler build. Please post comments. Please consider subscribing to support the channel. I am actively trying to grow it. And please post comments and let me know what you think. Is there or are there other traits I'm missing or other stats that you would prioritize over what I stated? I have played this game about 50 hours at this point, but I'm still learning. So if you have thoughts, let me know. And I hope to see you in future videos. Thanks so much for watching. Shadow Coast out.